Welcome to this edition of Transformation Thursday. So excited to be back in this space again. So excited, as always, to have Dr. Chappelle joining me for this edition of Transformation Thursday. Um, Christopher, uh, about a week ago, I was introduced to this book by uh, Dwayne Buckingham. The book is called Created to Win, Conditioned to Lose. Created to Win, Conditioned to Lose. Dwayne gives this biography, if you will, or this story of growing up in one of the toughest areas in St. Louis, Missouri. He grew up in extreme poverty where he was exposed to violence and drugs and crime and murder and death. And like all of us, uh, yet he was created in God's image and in his likeness. The Bible would say to us that he, like all of us, we are wonderfully and fearfully made, that we're the apple of God's eye. Uh, but despite all that, he was conditioned to believe that he was worthless. He was conditioned to believe that his environment defined him. He was conditioned to believe that this was all there was to life. This environment, this situation, this difficulty was all there was to life. Uh, and despite the fact that we are created to win, that we're created for great works, that we're created for purpose, and we're created for success. But sometimes, due to external factors, you, me, Dwayne in his book, become conditioned to believe that we can't win. We become conditioned to believe that we can't win, which leads to this mindset of defeat. In Genesis chapter 12, God tells Abram, he says, Abram, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make your name great. You will be a blessing to others. I'm going to bless those that bless you, and I'm going to curse those who curse you. You will be a blessing. I'm going to bless you. This is what God tells him. And then he says, I need you, though, to get out of your country. I need you to leave your relatives and your father's house. And I need you to go to a place that I'm showing you, that I'm preparing for you. In essence, God was calling Abram out of a hostile environment, an environment that was hostile to God's gifts, God's calling on his life. He was calling him out of that environment to an environment that would allow him to grow and prosper. It was interesting because you know the story. As Abram starts his journey, he's obedient but if you follow, it says he stopped. He stopped midway in the journey. He stopped. Despite what God had told him, despite the promises, he settled in this place called Haran. He settled. And so often, because we are conditioned, we settle. He settled because of the convenience of Haran. He settled because of the comfort of this place. He settled because of there's a fear of continuing to move forward. He settled because of the people that surrounded him. he settled in Haran because of convenience, comfort, fear, and people. And so here's a question for us. What are we forfeiting because we're settling? And the next question becomes, how do we avoid settling? How do we avoid? And I recognize that despite being created to win, we are often conditioned, our environment, we're conditioned by the environment, or we're conditioned by our experience and our circumstances. Because of that, sometimes we settle, but how do we avoid settling for less than God's very best for us? That's my question for you, Christopher, and our question for our audience to ponder. How do you avoid settling for less than God's very best for your life?
Wait, how do you avoid settling? I think that's a very, very good question. It's a question that forces us to ponder. But if I had to give answer as to how to avoid it, I will first say that you have to sit and check the temperature. Like, you really have to decide and define what it is that you really want and what it is that you're settling for. See, settling, it's gonna sound weird, but it isn't always a bad thing.
Mm.
It's just a bad thing when you know that you can do more and you desire more, but you just are unwilling to put in the effort for more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, settling, when you think about creature comforts and everything, since the beginning of time, we've been working diligently to ensure that we have comfort, to ensure
Right.
that we have all of our needs met. If you think about the way that we created agricultural systems, that was for a form of comfort, because before then, if you had to hunt and you had to only grow in season, depending on seasons, things happen. You never knew where the next would come from.
Right.
But we've gotten so used to knowing where the next is, where the comfort becomes paralyzing,
Mhm.
because we expect it to be there. We expect things to be in place. And there's nothing wrong with that type of innovation. What's wrong is when, as I said before, when you know that you have more, when you know that you're capable of more, you know that God is pushing you to do more,
Mm-hmm.
and you refuse.
Right. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as I said, make the assessment. What's most important. Now, if you're perfectly fine with those outcomes and you're perfectly fine living below potential, hey, at the end of the day, it's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to see everything that this life can offer, you're gonna have to push.
Yeah.
And that is going to require all of us to step outside of that comfort zone. Because if we refuse to, then it's something that you told me a long time ago about dying on the vine. See, when you settle for the vine and you settle for staying, it's going to come to a point where your usefulness becomes uselessness.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's not helpful for anyone. So that's my initial thought.
I like that. I like that. And I like that last statement and how you pull that into that. Uh, when the Bible indicates that God called Abraham to move, but it also suggests to us that when he left, he brought people with him. And in doing so, it wasn't until his father died that then he moved on. In other words, it took something. God has a tendency to push you into where he wants you to be. Because sometimes we can settle, and sometimes it can be so convenient for us, it can be so comfortable for us that we settle for less than he has for us. But he has this tendency sometimes, because he wants so much more for us, he has this tendency to push you into where he wants you to be. If we follow Abram, God literally pushed him into where he wanted him to be. Haran was convenient for him. It was the halfway mark. It was convenient. He stopped. It was fine there. It was comfortable. In fact, they gained wealth while they were there. It was comfortable there. But that's not where God wanted him to be.
You know, if you look at it, I love the fact that you brought that point out. He gained while he was there.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes gaining that little bit isn't near about comparable to what God can bless you with.
Mm-hmm.
See, if he would have stayed, then he would have missed the big blessing.
Mm-hmm.
He would have missed significance.
There you go.
He could have settled for success,
Uh-huh.
but significance is always more fulfilling.
Right.
The other point that you made was that God pushes us into. You have to be thankful for the discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to be thankful for the agitation, because as I think you told me before, the clothes don't become clean without the agitation.
Yeah.
So in the wash, it requires discomfort and agitation.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's just what we need to move on from good to pursue something that's far greater.
Absolutely.
So
I love that.
I have to be thankful. We all should be thankful for the discomfort.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Man, that's awesome. We have to be thankful for the discomfort. You and I have talked about this before. One of my favorite books is Good to Great. It's one of my favorite books. And every time I think about that and think about those stories that are listed in that book, and how literally we can stop at being average. But God's desire is not that we be average. But his desire is that we be exceptional, that we be extraordinary, because we serve an extraordinary God with unlimited power. And he wants to shower us. But we can't remain, or we can't stay stuck, or we can't settle for less than what he has for us, because it might be comfortable or convenient, or because we're concerned about what people may think, or we're concerned about who may leave us and who may not, or whatever it may be, whatever it is that causes you to settle. He has something so much greater for us. And a little bit of agitation. One of my favorite texts is Paul, when he says, this momentary light affliction can't compare to the glory that will be revealed. This momentary agitation and discomfort and inconvenience, it can't compare to what God has in store for us. for those who keep moving, for those who overcome those limitations and defy the odds and don't allow the environment or the experience to define you. Those who turn their potential into a reality. Because potential is just potential until it's turned into reality, until it's made real. God has given each of us some potential, but his desire is that we make it reality. And he's given us the tools to do it. The question is, will you settle for less than what he has for you?
You know, Doc, I was thinking about
as you were talking, we have to be able to endure micro disturbances,
I like that.
right? The rain will come
Uh-huh.
so that the harvest can grow,
Mm-hmm.
but the rain also creates mud.
Mm.
But the mud doesn't matter because the harvest is the objective. So
I like that.
accept the rain, understand there's mud, don't get distracted, don't get comfortable, push for the harvest.
Man, that's it. That's it right there, Chris. That's it. That's our concluding point right there. That's our concluding point. Expect the rain. Expect that there will be mud. But also expect that there's a harvest. And so on this Transformation Thursday, I want you just to affirm with me, affirm with Chris. I will not settle. I will not settle. See you next time on Transformation Thursday.